When we talk about true intimacy, it's important to remember that it's never just about physical closeness. It is about how two people see, understand, and honor each other at the deepest level. A man who respects a woman, her body, her choices, her emotions, her individuality, creates a bond that goes beyond what the eye can see. Respect is not only the foundation of healthy love, it is also the core of what makes intimacy truly fulfilling. Without respect, affection becomes hollow, but when respect is present, every act of love is infused with meaning. So often, people mistake intimacy for just physical expression. But the reality is that the physical can only reach its full potential when it grows from a place of trust. Imagine a relationship where a woman feels safe enough to share her thoughts without fear of judgment, safe enough to express her needs without hesitation, and safe enough to be completely herself. That kind of space is created by a man who values her as a whole person, not just as someone to satisfy his desires. And when that safe space exists, intimacy becomes natural, beautiful, and powerful. Respect also means patience. It means listening. It means taking the time to understand what your partner needs and what makes her feel cherished. In a world where many rush into taking without giving, a man who slows down and puts effort into truly seeing his partner stands out. He shows that intimacy is not about control or conquest, but about connection. That kind of man allows his partner to relax, to feel valued, and to open her heart fully. And when that happens, both people benefit. The bond they share becomes unshakable. Trust is at the center of this. Think about it, trust is what allows vulnerability. And vulnerability is what deepens intimacy. When a woman knows she can trust a man with her body, her secrets, her fears, and her dreams, then physical closeness transforms into something sacred. Without trust, intimacy can feel mechanical, almost empty. But with trust, even the simplest touch carries weight and meaning. That is the difference between being with someone and truly being connected to them. Respect also shows in how a man responds when his partner communicates her boundaries. Instead of pushing or pressuring, he listens, honors her words, and adjusts. That doesn't make him less of a man. It makes him more of one. Because strength is not found in overpowering someone. It's found in having the discipline and love to honor someone else's needs. And when those needs are respected, the relationship grows stronger. Let's not forget that intimacy is never one-sided. When a man respects his partner, he also allows himself to be respected. He opens the door to equality in the relationship, where both people give and receive. That balance is where true joy lies. It's not about one person taking the spotlight, but about both shining together. Respect transforms intimacy into a dance where each step is guided by love, consideration, and care. Some may think respect is something small, but in reality, it's everything. It's in the way you speak, the way you listen, the way you touch, and the way you hold space for your partner. A man who understands this doesn't just create intimacy, he creates trust, he creates safety, and he creates love that lasts. And when intimacy comes from that place, it becomes more than a moment. It becomes a bond that shapes the entire relationship. Respect is the seed that grows into a love that both people can be proud of. Without it, intimacy will always fall short. But with it, intimacy becomes limitless, powerful, and unforgettable. That is why true intimacy is always built on respect. When we think about love and relationships, one of the most overlooked truths is that intimacy should never be about just one person's needs. It is about two people coming together, each willing to give as much as they receive, each willing to make the other feel valued, seen, and fulfilled. Mutual pleasure is not just about the physical act of making someone happy. It is about the emotional joy that comes when you know your partner feels cared for, satisfied, and important. A man who understands this truth is not only a better partner, but also a stronger man, because he recognizes that love thrives when both people are nourished. Too often, society has taught men to view intimacy as a performance or a conquest, where their satisfaction is the measure of success. But real connection is so much deeper than that. The men who stand out, the ones who are remembered and cherished, are those who approach intimacy as a shared journey, where both people matter equally. They pay attention to the needs of their partner, and they understand that joy is amplified when it is experienced together. That's where real fulfillment lies, not in taking, but in giving just as much, if not more. Think about the power of reciprocity. When one partner invests in the happiness of the other, it creates a natural cycle of giving and receiving. That cycle builds trust, makes intimacy feel safe, and strengthens the bond beyond anything superficial. A woman who feels cared for will naturally want to care in return, And this back and forth exchange creates an energy that is unmatched. It becomes a rhythm of love where each person feels uplifted, respected, and deeply connected. It is also important to remember that pleasure is not only physical. There is a unique kind of joy that comes from knowing your partner feels understood, appreciated, and adored. Sometimes it's in the small gestures, a gentle touch, a thoughtful word, or even the way you listen. These moments add up and create a foundation where physical intimacy flourishes naturally. When a woman knows her partner values her happiness, she doesn't just give her body, she gives her trust, her vulnerability, and her full presence. That is where intimacy transforms into something extraordinary. The most admired men are those who put their ego aside and embrace the truth that intimacy is not about power or control, but about balance and harmony. They do not measure their worth by dominance, but by the smiles, the comfort, and the joy they bring to their partner. This is not weakness, it is strength in its purest form. Because it takes courage to prioritize another person's happiness, and it takes maturity to recognize that true fulfillment comes when both partners rise together. When intimacy is one-sided, it becomes unsustainable. One person begins to feel used, unappreciated, or invisible, and slowly the connection weakens. But when both partners feel cared for, the opposite happens. The relationship grows stronger, deeper, and more resilient with time. That is the magic of mutual pleasure. It turns intimacy into a bond that withstands challenges because both people know they are equally valued. And here is the beautiful part. When a man invests in his partner's happiness, he ends up experiencing a richer, more meaningful intimacy himself. Because joy is contagious. When one partner lights up, the other feels it too. There is a shared energy that builds between them, making every moment more powerful, more memorable, and more profound. That is the reward of giving. It always comes back, often in ways far greater than imagined. Mutual pleasure is not just about equality in the bedroom. It's about equality in love. It's about saying, your happiness is just as important as mine, and proving that through actions, not just words. It is about stepping into intimacy with the mindset of a giver, not a taker. And when both people embrace that mindset, what they create together is unbreakable. That is why mutual pleasure will always strengthen the bond between two people. For far too long, society has painted a picture of what it means to be a man. And unfortunately, that picture has often been one-dimensional, limiting, and damaging. Men are told they must be tough, unemotional, and dominant, as if strength is measured only by control or silence. These harmful stereotypes not only rob men of their true humanity, but they also affect the way women are treated in relationships. When intimacy is shaped by outdated ideas of masculinity, it loses its depth, its tenderness, and its meaning. That is why breaking these stereotypes is essential, not just for women, but for men themselves, because freedom and authenticity are born when we let go of toxic definitions of what it means to be strong. A man who embraces empathy, who allows himself to be gentle, and who understands the importance of care, challenges those old narratives. He shows that masculinity is not weakened by compassion. It is strengthened by it. The truth is, a man who listens, who nurtures, and who loves with kindness is far more powerful than one who hides behind walls of pride and detachment. Real strength is not in domination, but in the ability to connect on a deeper level, to prioritize the well-being of his partner, and to honor intimacy as a shared act of love rather than a performance of control. The world often tells men that showing tenderness makes them vulnerable, and vulnerability is mistaken as weakness. But vulnerability is actually the purest form of courage. It takes bravery to open up, to admit you care deeply, and to invest in another person's happiness. That kind of bravery doesn't strip a man of his masculinity. It redefines it in the most beautiful way. Women respect and cherish men who are secure enough to embrace this side of themselves because it creates a bond that is authentic and safe. It says, I don't need to prove my worth through dominance. My worth is proven by the love and respect I give. Challenging stereotypes also frees women. When men step away from the old idea that their role is to lead, to take, or to control, it opens the door for equality in the relationship. A woman no longer feels like she has to shrink herself to fit into someone else's expectations. Instead, she can stand tall, knowing she is loved for who she is, not for how much she submits. That balance allows intimacy to flourish because both people are present as equals, not as roles they were forced into by society. This shift also reshapes the future. When men challenge stereotypes, they set a new example for younger generations. Boys grow up seeing that it's possible to be loving and still strong, tender and still respected. They learn that masculinity doesn't mean silencing emotions or demanding obedience, but rather cultivating respect, kindness, and understanding. That ripple effect creates healthier relationships, healthier families, and ultimately a healthier society. It's important to acknowledge that breaking free from these stereotypes isn't always easy. It requires unlearning years of conditioning and being willing to face criticism from those who cling to outdated beliefs. But the reward is worth it. Because at the end of the day, a man who is brave enough to love openly and equally will always experience a deeper kind of fulfillment than the one who hides behind pride. He not only creates intimacy that is genuine, but he also earns a respect that cannot be faked. True admiration doesn't come from how much control a man holds, but from how much love he gives. The men who are remembered, the ones who leave a lasting impact, are never those who clung to toxic ideas of dominance. They are the ones who embraced humanity, who treated women as partners, and who built relationships on the foundation of care and equality. That is why real strength in men is shown through empathy, care, and emotional maturity. Love is often misunderstood as something that exists only in the physical. People sometimes mistake intimacy for the act of being close, forgetting that true connection is much larger, much deeper, and much more enduring. Physical closeness can be beautiful, but is fleeting if it is not supported by the strength of emotional presence, loyalty, kindness, and trust. A man who only focuses on the physical misses the chance to experience the kind of love that lasts, the kind of love that grows stronger with every passing year. A man who understands that love goes beyond the body builds something that cannot be shaken, something that time cannot easily erode. When we look at relationships that thrive, we see that their foundation is never just desire. It is the way two people show up for each other every single day. It's the patience in listening, the gentleness in words, the comfort in silence, and the unwavering loyalty in times of challenge. Those are the moments where love shows its true face. When a man chooses to uplift a woman, to honor her dreams, to support her struggles, he is expressing intimacy in its purest form. The physical may fade, but those acts of care remain etched in the heart forever. It's easy to fall into the illusion that love is proven through dramatic gestures or grand displays, but the truth is often found in the quiet consistency of simple actions. Love beyond the physical is the way a man remembers what matters to his partner, the way he makes her feel safe when the world feels overwhelming, the way he chooses respect even when disagreement arises. These small, often unnoticed acts are what build intimacy that cannot be broken. They say, without words, I am here for you, not just when it's convenient, but always. There is also a strength that comes when men see their role not as takers but as givers. A man who offers love beyond the physical teaches his partner that she is valued for who she is, not just what she gives. He reminds her that she is loved in her laughter and her sadness, in her beauty and in her flaws. This kind of love allows a woman to be her truest self without fear. And in return, she gives back a depth of love that cannot be forced or demanded. It's a love freely chosen, and that is the most powerful kind. Love beyond the physical also requires presence. It means being emotionally available, being willing to listen, to understand, and to share in vulnerability. Too often, people close themselves off, afraid of being hurt or misunderstood. But a man who is courageous enough to open his heart creates a space where both partners can grow together. That emotional intimacy often outlasts the physical, because bodies age, appearances change, but the soul-to-soul connection only deepens with time. There is a beauty in knowing that the most admired men are not remembered simply for passion, but for devotion. They are remembered for being steadfast, for being gentle when it mattered, strong when it was needed, and honest at all times. These men know that the truest form of intimacy is not found in fleeting moments, but in the lifetime of love they choose to build. They see beyond what is temporary and hold on to what is lasting. This is why, when we speak about men who are truly the most, we are not talking about those who only pursue the physical. We are talking about men who live love in its entirety, men who honor with respect, who nurture with kindness, who show loyalty, and who never stop uplifting the women beside them. That is why love beyond the physical defines a man's true character.